Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We're calling this Beyond the Current Crisis, Preparing for What is Next. This is part one of a three-part series that Dr. Peter Wishnie, Tina Del Buono, and I are doing to help podiatry practices not only stay strong and survive during this crisis period that we're at, but also and especially to prepare for what is actually coming, which is going to be pretty positive in a lot of ways, especially if you utilize your time now to prepare for what the world will be like after the COVID-19 crisis as it exists right now has passed us. And so welcome, everyone. It's a delight for me to be on the phone with my two partners, Dr. Peter Wishnie and Tina Del Buono. Dr. Wishnie and Tina both run the Virtual Practice Management Institute inside Top Practices. The whole point of Top Practices is to help you build, grow, market your practice, and have such an efficient practice that you don't work harder, you just work smarter, and you don't get tired, you don't take your work home, you don't work on the weekends, you really run an efficient practice. And that's really the message that we're going to be sharing with you today as you look forward and understand more about preparing for disasters, the rainy days that will come, and how to make your practice strong. So we hope very, very fervently that this is useful and supportive for you, not only now but in the future. I want to start with one of my favorite quotes, which is by Eric Hoffer. In times of change, the learners will inherit the earth, while the knowers remain beautifully prepared for a world that no longer exists. We are in a time of change. In fact, we're in a time of a watershed change. There are many silver linings that this very, very dark cloud has. And I'm looking for those silver linings everywhere I possibly can. One of those silver linings is that we really won't be the same when this is all over. This is a generational test, the likes of which our generation really has not experienced. I'd say the closest is probably the 2008 financial crisis and 9/11. Certainly, my grandparents experienced enormous tests in World War II and the Depression, but this is our own time to be tested. And what happens during a time like this is we become stronger, we grow, we become wiser, and maybe we become just a little bit more compassionate and a little more understanding of other folks. Now, everything in our lives is all about how we see it. I think it was Henry Ford that said, if you think you can't or you think you can, you're right. And so right now, for all of us, this is a gigantic obstacle that is in the way for all of us. It is imposing and it is intimidating. And yet, in every single case in your life, 100% of the time, you have made it through. And what you find on the other side of every crisis, every failure, every setback is a new and beautiful beginning. And that will happen now. That will happen as we all emerge from this crisis. I remember well, whenever we had the 2008 financial crisis, it truly appeared as though everything was going to just fall apart. And yet, after that was one of the largest expansions we've ever had in this country. And I know it feels at the moment like, how will we ever get back to being able to go to a restaurant and having someone at a table next to us sneeze and not have us all run for the door? I think we will have some PTSD when it comes to that. I also think that the economy will not only recover, but it will, the Dow is going to go to 40. There's just no question that that is the case. It'll happen in the time that it happens. I will tell you this. I think that podiatry is going to have a very strong and quick rebound because the need is going to be so great. So don't let this be your present. Don't let this be your future. This is where we are thinking now, and this is where we all need to be. And so with that in mind, I just want to say that one of the things that we always work on, and we will be addressing over the course of these 3 webinars for you, are what we call the 3 points of leverage that you have. Key points of leverage where you're able to make your practice as efficient as possible. And the first of those is patient volume. And that really involves marketing and customer service. I'm going to be addressing that in future webinars more strongly than tonight. But this is how many patients are in your reception room every day, and what percentage of those patients are new patients. This is a key point of leverage for you to make your practice strong, and you can impact that through your marketing and your customer service. The next point of leverage is called your per visit revenue. This is the amount of money that is calculated by what amount is collected every single time a patient walks into your office for an office visit. We'll talk more about those. We're going to talk a few strategies about that today. And lastly, the third point of leverage is how much revenue, how much money does your practice generate every hour that it's open? That is a very different number from what is generated every time a patient walks in the door. If you know and understand those 3 major points of leverage, you can have an incredibly efficient and profitable practice that will sustain you even through these hard times. But speaking about crisis, speaking about the rainy day, one of the things that you accidentally signed up for was to become a leader. Whether you want to be a leader or not, if you own your own practice, if you own your own small business, which is what a medical practice is, it's what a podiatry practice is, then you are a leader. And leaders are who we look to at all times, but most especially in a crisis. And so Dr. Wishnie has studied and spent an enormous amount of time and is one of the best leaders that I personally know. And so we're going to turn the microphone over to Dr. Wishnie so that he can really discuss. We're going to spend some time today about what you should be doing today and now in the middle of all this. Our next webinars will be more about prepping for coming out for what I'm calling the Great Resurgence. So Dr. Wishnie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Rem, and thanks, everyone. And I want to talk about leadership. It's something I am passionate about, and it's really, really, really important, especially now in a time of crisis. And John Maxwell, who is the New York Times #1 bestseller on the topic of leadership, defines crisis as a time of intense difficulty requiring a decision that is a turning point. We'll go to the next slide. And a turning point, and that is, that's the key words, and it's a turning point. It's not the end of the world. The turning point starts with you. Your leadership abilities is basically starts with you and your ability to lead. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Leadership is just one thing, and that one thing is influence. Influence on others. And the most important thing you need to do right now is to take care of your people. It's not the time to develop your dream team. It is the time to maintain your dream team. If you have key staff that you love, and maybe they're not working right now, maybe they are on furlough leave, you need to pay attention to them. These are your key players, because when it's time to come back, and it's going to happen real soon, I believe, sooner than we think. When it's time to come back, these people are going to be important, and they need to feel that they were loved and cared for. All of us are afraid. Now, this fear brings in self-doubt. The only way to get rid of self-doubt is to gain confidence by acting, no matter even if you're scared. And it's so important to basically act. The greater your ability to lead, then the greater the success of your organization. Take care of your people, communicate with them, decide. From a couple of weeks ago, I gave my staff an opportunity, a chance to say, you know what, some of you need to stay home. And I get it, and that's all good, and that's fine. But some of you are going to stay, and that's good too. You're all equal. You're all important. You need to maintain communication with all of your people. Okay, now there's an admiral, Admiral James Stockdale. Let me tell you a story, and basically this is what he said. You must never confuse faith that you will prevail in the end with the discipline to confront the most brutal facts of your current reality, whatever they may be. Now, Admiral Stockdale was in the Vietnam War and was a prisoner of war for 7 years. He was tortured every single day for those 7 years with a bunch of other of his men. They tied him to a chair for 7 years and tortured him every single day. And we can go to the next slide, Rem. And he found out that when he came out of all this, he was interviewed, and he said, "How come you survived, and why didn't other people survive?" He said, "Because the other people were optimistic." Now check this out, optimistic. They hoped at every time that Christmas is coming by and nearing, that they will then, you know what, we're going to get out by Christmas. They're going to free us by Christmas. Christmas came and went, but never freed. Then they hoped that they're going to be freed by Easter. And guess what? Easter came, and they were still prisoners of war. And they kept on doing that. I want to talk about a guy named Viktor Frankl, who wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. Now, Viktor Frankl was a Holocaust survivor, and he would tell you that deaths increased between the times of Christmas and New Year's because of false hope. Rem, you can go back to that. Thank you. So the Stockdale paradox is being optimistic in itself can be dangerous. You need to know everything will be fine. That's great. Everything will be fine. But you also need to be honest with the current reality and act. Honesty to face the current reality and faith that you will prevail in the end is something that you need both of. So you need to be honest with the situation. You need to have faith, but the key is acting. Okay, I'm going to tell you what to do in a second. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so there's 3 steps in handling a crisis. One is to recognize there's a crisis, reassess it, and then respond. Okay, so next slide. So to recognize your response, first thing to do, to have your faith, you need to get, as I said, you need to be educated. Check on social media, and then look at the news, but do it sparingly. Pick a day, pick a time or two during the day to check this information. Now, listen for your negative thinking, such as, you know what, I'm not sure this is going to end, when it's going to end, and some of us are sitting back and not doing anything. We're home, maybe quarantining, and we're just not doing anything. We're just doing everything else but thinking about our practice. I want you to play not to lose, but I want you to play to win this game, because 2020 is not over. This is April. You still can salvage and have a great 2020. Next slide, please. So then you want to reassess, and this is what you do. This is what I've done. So I'm checking the money every single day, seeing how much money is coming in, and then I'm saying what percentage of that is normal. So my normal day. So if I normally bring in, let's say, $10,000 in a day, and I'm bringing in only $3,000 a day, I am at 30% of what I normally do. I look at all my bills and see which ones you have to pay. You have to pay your rent, your mortgage, your electric bills, your gas bills, your insurance bills. Those things you have to pay. And then I'm looking at 30%. I'm looking at regarding handling payroll, and there's 4 of us, 4 doctors. I have an independent part-time contractor, and this past week I basically had to temporarily lay him off, and he understood. I have the 3 doctors running 1 office instead of 2 offices. We changed. Now, 2 weeks ago, we were at same hours, all 4 doctors, and I keep on reassessing the situation on a daily basis and see what's the new norm, or basically, I would like to say, the temporary new norm, because that's what that is, temporary new norm. and then reassess, and then call. You can call and negotiate your for your car payments, your even your rent. You can negotiate. You can negotiate anything. People will understand. So that's taking action. And then on top of that, look at your AR and your AP. So your accounts receivable. Make sure you're collecting every dime you can possibly collect at this present moment. And then look at your who you have to pay and who you don't have to pay, and communicate with all your vendors. Don't say I'm not. Just don't ignore them. Communicate with them. Okay, next slide, please. Now, Steve Jobs said deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. So doing nothing is what you not to do. Just figuring it's going to end. And there's a great book, which I talked about on my recent VPMI call, which I reread again, Who Moved My Cheese by Stephen Johnson, MD. And that book saved my life 20 years ago, and it's doing the same again. You know what? The cheese keeps on moving, folks. In business, in any business, they keep on moving the cheese, and the cheese represents the prize, the end result, the game, your finances. And it gets moved. You have to do something different. Adapt to it, embrace it, and knowing that they keep on doing that, and then decide what you need to do to find the new cheese, what to do right now to maintain, and then be ready, be prepared to thrive really, really soon. So cut out the things that are not really important right now. Okay, next slide, please. Then you respond. And General George Patton said, a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week. You just have to act. You can act and then keep on planning every day and decide what's the things you need to do. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to know all the answers, because we do not know all the answers. Okay, next slide.
Can I jump in there? I love George Patton.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
That's still one of my favorite movies of all time. He's just so quotable, and he's had so many good quotes. But he also said, "Wars are won by people that actually go out and do something." So I just thought I'd throw that one. Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. So when you are responding, you are mitigating your risks. And I want to talk about this. I mentioned this on my call on Wednesday. Inventory and billing and collecting. When the time comes and your phones are ringing off the hook, because it will, and patients are coming back. Right now you're running a low inventory, and that's the part you need to do before and check out your inventory. Make sure you don't have a lot of inventory. Just have enough to take care of everything. But there's going to be that time where you're slow, and then it's slowly building up to the point of the old normal, and you got to keep an eye on that. You got to keep an eye on the patient volume, making sure you have all the DME products that you need and all the supplies that you need, because the worst thing that could happen is now the patient comes in, doesn't get what he or she needs. Now you have a lost opportunity of making money. You can't afford that then. At that time, you're now going to get back on your horse full-fledged, and you're going to really just get excited and take care of all the people and give them everything they need, but you have to have the inventory. And I fear that if you don't watch it, people will come in and you don't have the night splints or the cam boots, whatever you need, or maybe you don't have enough casting material. Whatever it is, you need to keep an eye on your inventory. The next thing is, if your staff is not trained right now to collect all the money up front, or even from behind the scenes, they still are not ready when that time comes. And you cannot let anyone walk out that door without paying their copays and deductibles and past balances and anything they might possibly owe, for services that are not covered. So it's a great time right now to really mitigate your risk and really get your staff ready to handle those two things. Okay? And that's part of the training and part of putting in processes and systems in place. If you're all at home, you have staff at home, and let's say you're paying them to work from home, they could put together their complete systems that they do every single day to get the job done, and it'd be a great task for them to do it. Now's the time to get that done. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay. Now there's a company you might never heard of called Tiny Speck, and Tiny Speck was a gaming company. Basically, it didn't really work, and they had to go out of business. But what they did is they didn't completely go out of business. What Tiny Speck did one of the things they did is inside their gaming, they had a messaging kind of system to communicate with people. They pivoted. They took that little part of what they did, and they became Slack. I don't know if you heard of Slack, but Slack is a $16 billion communication system that you can communicate with other people through your office or to between offices, and that's what they did. They pivoted. Okay, now you do not need to pivot. Okay, but we're doctors. We're doctors and we help patients. You need to realign your messaging. I thought maybe, Rem, you were like that. And your messaging is, you know what? We're not going to go out and start talking about come to my office. You got, have a little heel pain, you have some flat feet. We're not going to purposely do that. We're going to take care of the people who are our patients who loved us for years. You're going to make sure one of the things we're doing, each doctor's calling 5 patients a day, just saying, hey, we know it's a crazy time. We just care about you. How's everything? So your messaging is we care about you. We're here for you. In case you have a bad infection, you're diabetic, you need your services, we're open. We also provide telemedicine. And these are the things that we are doing to keep the office safe. So if you do come in for an essential visit, we can make sure you're safe and take care of you. So just realigning your messaging. Again, you don't have to pivot. Okay, next slide. Okay. So Michael Hyatt, I'm a big Michael Hyatt fan. I have his full focus planner. You survived every crisis you've ever faced. In fact, you have a 100% track record for surviving your most difficult days. Do I know that? Because we're all on this call right now, and we're here. And I'm a perfect example. I had a bunch of difficulties in my life, divorces and what have you. I am still here. I am not only surviving, I'm thriving. It's still a difficult time right now. It's hard about keeping an eye on my office every single moment. Okay, next slide. Okay. Now, Robert Updegraff said, a man should be grateful every hour of every day for the troubles of his job. But if there were no troubles, it would be easy to get someone to do his work for half or even a third of the pay he is getting. Left out the word pay. Of the pay he's getting. So it's supposed to be hard, but I don't say it's supposed to be hard. It's not supposed to be like easy. It's supposed to be like, hey, you know what? You're good at handling this stuff. Just be prepared that things are going to happen. Things are going to change. And the winners, the CEOs, the leaders that get this, that embrace change, positive or negative, and handle the situations at the moment are the ones that can go to bed at night without any kind of major stress. Of course, there's a little stress here. Okay, a lot of stress, okay, but are able to handle it and be able to sleep at night. Okay, and then having like what I'm doing right now in about an hour from now, I have about 9 people who are at home. Some of them are working from home, some of them on furlough. I'm going on a Zoom call. I'm going to just fill them in on what's going on and just see how they're doing and just continue my relationships with these key people that I'm more worried about losing them than anything else because they make my machine run like really, really smooth. And the way I'm going to get back on track is through these people. Okay, so thank you very much.
Peter, thank you so much for all of that. It's funny, I remember about 10 years ago, I was talking to a CEO of a company, and he had some challenges, was actually at the shore on a vacation and called me. He was on vacation, not me, and was just, really frustrated. And he said something to the effect of, why do I have to deal with all the big problems? And I said, well, you're the CEO. It's in your job description. That's what we do. We solve problems. And For me, every day now, instead of seeing these problems that come in, and that could be an unhappy or a dissatisfied outcome with a patient. It could be all kinds of things. Really recognize that, that's what I do. That's not here to disrupt my enjoyment and having a great day today. It's why I have a job. And so problems should be looked at as the gifts that they truly are. And on the side of all of this comes, again, as I said, there's better that is awaiting us. There always is. So, Tina, I want to ask you now, now we're going to talk a bit more about thinking about, as Peter was talking about, that group of people that are working with you now and really roaring into what's coming, which is going to be some of the busiest times any of you have ever had. So, Tina, I'm going to turn it over to you now. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rem. Correct. When Peter talked about, communication and communicating with your staff about what and why you're doing what you're doing, and then having them buy in to show your patients or your customers, that they care about them, And you cannot do that without keeping everyone on the same page. And it just isn't going to happen. And I can't tell you how often I talk with either management staff or the employees, actual staff members in practices, and they tell me that they don't really feel, which is what's really important, that their managers or their physician business owners really care about them, that they're just there to do a job, which is true. They are there to do a job, but they need to know that their managers, supervisors, and their employees really care about them personally. You cannot get employees to buy in, to become engaged without that. And like Dr. Wishnie said, he's getting on a Zoom call to connect with them. I connect with our staff members, even though only one of them comes in for an hour a day into the office. I keep connected with all of them, asking about their family, their children, their grandparents, because I care about them. And I am looking forward to the day that they come back to work and we're all together again. But what's been so, heartwarming is that they're texting me, asking me, how are you and doctor doing today? Is everything okay? Is there anything I can get you? Oh, my gosh. And that only happens when you really spend the time to communicate with one another. Now, I'm not just talking about talking, although that's part of it. It's actually actions. And I want to talk about just, 4 main things that you can be thinking about now. Maybe you do a couple of them. Maybe you don't do any of them. But when you're back to working and maybe your schedule's a little slower, you might be able to carve out just those few minutes to do these things every day, every week, and you are going to transform your practice. And the people who are there are going to be, like Peter said, your powerhouse, your team that's going to take you and move you forward. So first week you hear, about investing in employees. Well, do you invest in your employees? Or not just giving them a job, How does your staff sound? Have you ever listened to them? What are they saying? And have you ever wondered what they say about you when they're not in your practice? I was at the bank one day, and I heard someone went up to the teller, and she said, "Oh, you work for so-and-so, so-and-so. Oh, my gosh, they are my child's T-ball coach. They are so wonderful," and stuff. And this person just started talking about their employer and how great they were. And I thought, ew, do my staff talk about me that way when they go to the bank and someone mentions me? Or what are they saying? And so that is called investing. You have to take your time. And I know people say, I don't have the time. I've talked to doctors who say, I don't have time to know about their children. You do not have the time not to know. if you want to have that powerhouse team that's devoted to serving you and your patients. So you want to make sure that not only are you communicating with them, but your management staff knows how to communicate with them, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But do they have all the tools that they need to do their job? Do they have continuing education? And what is their training like, in their jobs? And on another webinar, we're going to get into that a little bit deeper. But your focus in investing in your employees is you want them to be able to do the best job that they can to their abilities. And it's up to you to make sure they have what they need. Go ahead, Rem. So, doing a daily walkabout. This is one thing that you can do. And maybe, doctor, you can't do this every single day, but you've got to do it often. And you have to make sure that the management staff do this. And what is a walkabout? It's just checking in with each person, asking them, do they need anything? I have a system set up where we've color-coded things, and I can tell when somebody has, a bunch of new referrals because it's all color-coded. And I'll ask them, are you going to be able to get to that, or would you like some help? Asking them, is everything okay? Listening to them. Do they sound happy? Do they sound sad? Are they frustrated? And then addressing that with them. You can get really big clues on where they are as far as are they enjoying their job that day, which you want them to, because if they're not happy, are they going to be making those patients who come into your practice happy? And it's not that you may be making them unhappy. It may be that there are other things going on in their life. But by you addressing and asking them, are you okay? Hey, you sound a little sad today. Is there anything going on that I can help you with? You're showing you care about them. They're not just a person stuck in a chair to do this job, and they better do it. They are a fellow human being. And those daily walkabouts mean so much. I watch it in my practice with my husband, who's the physician. And he never used to do this. But now he'll stop by and he'll say, hey, how's your mom doing? She had surgery a couple weeks ago. Is she doing okay? And I'm like, bravo, right on. Oh, yes, she's doing so much better. Thank you so much. Or he'll text an employee, to ask about, hey, I know that patient unloaded on you today. Are you okay? And it's just amazing. And you have to be able to do that. And you can do that just by walking about your practice, looking at the people, smiling at them, asking if they're okay. Are you having a good day? How was your evening? So do a walkabout. And as a manager, do a daily walkabout to connect in with everybody who's in that practice. Do not go in and just shut your door or have your back to the staff. Connection. Okay? You could
Tina, I'd like to jump in on that, if you don't mind, for just a second.
Sure.
I think that most of us don't think about this, but interactions with your boss or with the owner of the company or the practice, whoever it is, we just wake up, in my case, put in my contact lenses, brush my teeth, and say, all right, I guess I'll get my shower or whatever it is. We're just waking up like normal people and can't imagine that people would be that actually interested in us in general. We really just can't see it. And then what we find out is that they actually really care. That little note, that little thought, what you just said about, hey, how's your mom? Remembering, caring enough to say, I know who these people are, and I'm interested in them because they are co-creators of all that I'm working on together. Mm-hmm. And you think it's an offhand, like, well, they don't care what I think, and they absolutely do. A kind word can go so far, so far. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because I totally agree with you on that. Go ahead, Tina.
Yeah, and it's so rewarding when I see them go back like at the end of the day, if we've run behind and the doctor's caught up, they say, "Doctor, you did really good." And they give them a pat on the back. It goes both ways, So it's just wonderful. Okay, so asking for feedback. How often do you do that? Or are you more critical about what it is they're not doing? Since it is the employees that are doing their jobs and not you, the business owner or the manager, do you ask them how, things are going with their job tasks? Do you let them know that I want to hear from you? If you have new ideas, if you have better ways to do these job tasks, take advantage of their brilliant minds. I have all millennials that work for me, and oh my gosh, they have amazing minds and ideas that they can then share with me, and we can develop new ways to do things that are better. And it's asking them, just asking them. And you know what? The same thing goes with if you do not give them feedback on how they are doing, take notice of what they're doing. Because Brene Brown, one of my favorite quotes of hers, is, "In the absence of data, we will always make up stories." So if we're not giving feedback, whether it be positive or constructive, as I heard you say this to a patient, I would like that worded this way. It's positive feedback, and this is why. So if that front office person is answering your phone and they're saying something that just, kind of makes the hair on your arm stand up, like my doctor doesn't like anyone to say, "Oh, we just had a cancellation." He likes you to say, "We just had an opening in our schedule." And so, but if he were to allow, or we were to allow this person to keep saying cancellation and not giving any feedback, this person thinks they're doing their job right. They think that they're great because you haven't said anything. So the story they're making up in their mind is that I do my job great, I don't have any problems, and then all of a sudden, if you let things like this go, and then whammo, you go at them or you fire them because you just don't like the way they do things, and you've never given them any feedback. And in their mind, they've made up stories based on what hasn't happened. And we are all that way. And so that feedback needs to go. You need to ask it from them because they may not know that you want it. And then you need to be able to give it to them about how they're doing and addressing with them. You know what? When I see something or I hear something, I'm going to come and ask to have a conversation with you to explain why I want something done. So they aren't, scared when you come to them. You're coming to them to talk about training and educating them. So remember, ask for feedback, give feedback. All right, and one of my favorites is seek understanding. Okay, as the fifth habit that Stephen Covey discusses in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, is to seek understanding. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. How often do we not do that? All the time. We think we understand, but we don't seek to understand. And a big change in my management career with staff members came about 6-7 years ago when I learned to ask more questions of them. So I could gain better understanding. If they did something or said something, I would ask, "Hey, can you tell me why you did that so I can understand better?" And then they would tell me. And sometimes I go, "Oh, I get why they did that." And asking them, "What do you think about this?" Or "What do you think would happen if we did that or we didn't take care of that?" Letting them come up and tell us what their understanding is so that we can understand where they are coming from and what they know, and not to assume. And I think that's such a valuable thing. If all of us could learn to do that all of the time, what a better world we would have. But it is so important because often, and I hear this, it's that we go at them and stating things that we think we understand because we haven't sought to find out what the true understanding really is. And that's one that we just have to continue, to practice. And just to throw another quick one in is that I also often hear that, it doesn't seem like they understand me. It doesn't seem like they are listening. Jay Henderson shared something this year at the summit, and it was my number one takeaway, is he said, as he was teaching on this fifth habit, he said, you know how you have those things that are going through your head all day long? It's that voice that's telling you, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I yelled at my kid all about that. Or, what am I going to cook for dinner? Oh, I need to go to the grocery store and I need to get this and this. And, oh yeah, I have to call my dad. And you have these things going through your mind. We all do all day long. If we could stop for that second when we've, maybe said something to someone and they kind of looked up at us clueless, to realize that they have the same voices going on in their head. They have that static, noise that's going on in their head. And just to take the moment to, to care and be a little more gracious, understanding they are just like us. I know sometimes my staff comes in and they'll say, hey, blah, 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 and I will miss the first part of what they say. And I'll say, excuse me, I'm sorry, I was thinking about something else. Could you repeat that? Now I'm focused on you. And so if we could remember just these 4 points, to invest, to do the walkabouts when we're back together, to ask for feedback and give good positive feedback, and then to seek understanding. Those 4 things can transform our relationships in the practice to make us that dynamic team that is going to move us forward into the new normal of our practice.
Well, Tina, thank you so much for that. And folks, this is only part 1 of a 3-part series. But I want to leave you with this thought. Everything is mindset. How you look at the crisis and the challenges in front of you and what's going to come after that. And what will come after that is going to be, as we've said before, you're looking at this in terms of this giant boulder that's on the road in front of you. And yes, this is a Category 5 hurricane that hit all of us in the entire world at the same time. But it's going to pass. And when it passes, this is what it's going to be like. This is what it has always been like. This is how your practice will be experienced by you, your patients, your staff, and everyone. Really having a handle on excellent and efficient, profitable, abundant practice is in understanding those 3 points of leverage. We're going to be discussing those in more depth as we move along. I just want to say on behalf of myself, Dr. Wishnie, and Tina, thank you so much. And Dr. Wishnie said it really well. Be proactive. Start now. Get going. Don't wait around. The decision to start today is the most important decision that you'll make in the next 10 years. And so we're here. If you have any questions about anything that we've discussed, you can reach all of us via email this way. You can go to Top Practice's website. There's many ways to contact us there as well. That's just toppractices.com. But we would be delighted to talk to you. We're in this together. We are all in this together, and we will all succeed through this together onto something even greater beyond it. So thank you so much for your time. I hope this has been useful and helpful. Peter, thank you. Tina, thank you. And we will all talk to you very soon in the next webinar, where we're going to continue to focus even more now on really how you're going to be able to move forward, because, folks, this is going to be over in the blink of an eye. I'll just say this quickly. The French have a saying, la semaine est longue, mais la vie est courte, and it means the week is long, but life is short. And a lot of us think, man, I can't wait till Wednesday, can't wait till Friday. But then you think, where did the years go by? And so, these weeks that we're in now, they're long. Let's face it. We are looking at death statistics and are we flattening this curve? That is drudgery. That is long and complicated days. I know that. But this will be over in the blink of an eye. At the time that we're recording this, there are already glimmers of what's coming in terms of the resolution of this. We're in the middle of it, that's for sure. We've got more to go. But it's going to be over in the blinking of an eye, and the question will be, how well have you handled your time through all of this? It's interesting. There's a meme was shared with me. I didn't see it, but it related to a 27-year-old woman asks her mother, Mom, what do you remember about the 20 years in the future, by the way? This is 20 years from today. There's a 27-year-old woman that says to her mother, what do you remember about the great virus pandemic of 2020? And she, starts to tell her about, well, I remember all the fear and the anxiety. I also remember how we all came together and helped each other and came out of it. And she said to her daughter, who was 7 at the time, what do you remember? She goes, well, I remember it was the most beautiful spring of my entire life. I could spend every day with you and Dad and my brother. And the walks and the talks that we took together and what we did, she says, I loved it. It was the most beautiful time of my life. So, it's all about perspective. All right, everybody.
So true.
See you next time. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
Bye-bye.